time is 6:30, so I will call the work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, December 8th, 2025 to order. We have a quorum, all members are present, so first we'll go through the regular business meeting. I don't have anybody for the invitation. Are you going to do that?
Yes.
Anyone want to take the pledge? We'll have the vote on the minutes. Just remember to make sure you include the November 10th regular meeting and the November 18th special call work session. Under the public hearing, we have the financing agreement for the community center. That's also in conjunction with new item A on business. So we have talked to all the council members on that. And you said somebody was here.
Yeah, let me introduce Jim Woodward with Copeland Athens. He is our attorney that's helping us with this, and I thought it'd be good for him to come. Appreciate him being here to answer any questions that you all may have before the regular meeting and to explain the 100 pages.
Sorry, one page. This can be done in 2 pages, really, but that's not worth it.
So
I mean, it's just a short-term little mortgage.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Jim Woodward, law firm of Copeland, and I work with a lot of cities throughout the state of Georgia, counties, school districts, governments, and do public finance. That's what my practice is. And this is a GMA financing. It's been a program that Georgia Municipal Association, which is the co-op of all cities, put together probably about 50 years ago to assist with governments, cities throughout the state. And it's a program where they take advantage of the statute that governments have to borrow money called lease purchase statute. And a lot of police cars, a lot of school buses, and pretty much city halls, community centers, fire stations use this program. It's great for something of this size. It's a $4 million financing in term. This is a great financing, different from your GO bonds and other things, which are more larger capital projects. But they put this together, and what they do is GMA takes title to your project, and then the project's built, and then it's lease purchase or installment sale back to the city over the term of the financing. So this is a 15-year financing. Once the financing's over, title transferred back for $10 a shell property, y'all own it outright. But it meets all the requirements under statute to allow you to do this. GMA is not a bank, so they don't have their own financing source. So what happens is they assign your payments that the city would make into GMA over to a lender. And Queensboro Bank was your best bidder for this one, 4.25% interest rate. And basically what your contract payments for this is the debt service, is the principal interest on this financing. And so end result is, GMA really passes this through to the lender, becomes a loan in a sense between the city and Queensboro. We'll be making debt service payments, based off 4.25% interest for the next 15 years. And once it's paid off, the property's back to you and transaction is over. But the documents, this is one motion to approve the resolution as presented is all we need tonight. And it basically approves that installment sale agreement where you basically, GMA will take title to your project and you'll buy it back from them over 15 years. That's the main document. There's a mortgage or security deed on this, like any other financing for capital projects. So if you don't pay, obviously that's security for your financing, which gets you a better interest rate. There's an agreement for environmental activity, whereas if anything happens out here, the GMA is not liable for environmental catastrophes. That's not going to happen for something like this, but some other projects maybe. And then there's an assignment and transfer agreement, which basically GMA assigns their right to receive these payments that you'll be making to the lender. And so that's how the lender gets their payments, because it passes through straight to the lender. And then there's a term sheet that Queensboro Bank provided, which is the last exhibit of this document. So those are the principal documents. There are a few closing certificates, which I have in here as well, which are also approved by the resolution tonight. But that's the program. If you have any questions, I have to answer for you.
Okay. Any questions of council?
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Have to find the paper, so you can go ahead.
You said that there were other applicants.
There were, I think, 4 banks that responded back on the bids. Mhm.
And what was the reason that, I know we chose the bank that we chose, but what were some of the other rates that they offered? I know this one says 4.25%. What were some of the other rates? This was the lowest?
Wasn't the lowest rate,
What was the reason that we chose this bank?
but it allows us to do a buyback. So we don't have to wait for a full 15 years to pay the loan back if we want.
And the other banks didn't have that?
One of them, yeah, they had less favorable buybacks, and one was we had to buy back.
So if you
buy back
paid-
after 8 years.
If you paid off early,
One
you
we
had to
couldn't buy
pay
back,
fees.
yeah, pay fees.
And so how many applicants were there?
4.
4?
Mhm.
And of the 4, one didn't have the buyback, and then what was the other 2?
Ones had buybacks that were not advantageous to the city. Took longer
Okay.
to pay back. I think one was 2030, one was, exactly, 2030, one was no buyback period. This was buyback after 2 years. If we buy back after 2 years, we're good financially. We think that may take that long for us to collect the SPLOST dollars.
The plan is, with the loan, is that we'll be, this is just covering a short-term funding for the SLOSS proceeds, because we don't have it all collected before we've got to pay out for the construction costs. So this is just covering that shortfall over like a year or 2 period, and then as the rest of the SLOSS proceeds come in, the plan is to pay this loan down early. So we're not going to hold it for a full 15 years. It's really just until the SLOSS funds come in. So the prepayment penalties were a big consideration.
Okay, so I've read through all of it. I just have one question and kind of a comment. It can be misunderstood to residents when they hear we're building a community center with the assumption that this is an annual appropriation funded, according to this package. It has annual appropriation in it.
Great.
That means that every year the council will have to vote on if those funds are allocated to this loan.
In the
Is this
budget,
correct?
yeah, the budget, you have to add it to your budget. That's what you
Right,
do.
so I just need a little bit of clarity, because 15 years means future councils will have to vote on this allocation of funds to fund this.
Pay debt service, right?
Right, so
Yeah.
can you kind of help me understand what happens if, let's just say we have to allocate those funds?
Mhm.
What's the implications for that?
Sure. So this structure, the lease purchase structure, is really a stacking multiple year obligations. And so you appropriate the funds for that following year. And you do that through your budget. So we're going to, have some, money set aside in our budget to pay debt service for this community center. If you choose not to do that, there's a security deed or a mortgage on the property, and that'll be a default situation, and the bank would get your property. And so obviously you lose your assets. That's not something you want to do. But it's, but if you, they don't have any right, the lender doesn't have a right to go after the required payment of the full note if you don't appropriate the following year. But they have the collateral as the security for it.
The second question I had is that there was no, about the environmental indemnity that requires a city to, there's a statement that says the indemnity is not conditioned on default. And can this create an open-ended liability for the city if there are environmental implications that found?
Nothing new to what you have. This is y'all's property right now. It'll be transferred to GMA, and you'll have full control of it throughout the transaction as well. And so for environmental law rules, chain of title is what matters for environmental liability. So anything that's out there right now is y'all's liability. But this is a site y'all know. There's no environmental contamination. Anything out there is our y'all's liability. Y'all since y'all own it. It's going to transfer to GMA, but then y'all lease purchase it back. So GMA is really not going to have any control over the site. They're not going to be able to do anything with it. It's y'all's property, all intents and purposes. Y'all really control everything that happens out there. And so GMA just wants to say if anything does happen out there, this is y'all's project. It's y'all's liability. For community centers, it's really not a big issue. Mainly these come in for. Maybe some places have fuel tanks, like fire stations and certain other things. or other projects that might have some contamination of soil, where that really comes up, or something like a community center, it's very unlikely that anything could happen to your soil. There's really nothing you want to put into the soil.
Those are all the questions I have.
Yeah. And we had already done, I think environmentals were done before, isn't that required? I mean, that was our property, not for the loan, but for
Good design.
just for design.
Part of the plan
Well, I
is
mean,
the process.
yeah, I mean, the plan review's there, but I mean, we didn't do like a phase one or anything. I mean, we own the property, we owned it for 4 years, so, I mean, you know, it's been there, so. I mean, there was a septic tank we had to remove, but I don't think that's an environmental. It's sort of like a gas tank or.
Not anymore.
Yeah, anything like that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you. Here's all the documents, we'll leave these with Annette, and appreciate you working with us. Right there.
So that covers the public, it is a public hearing, so we will open the floor to public comment. And if anybody's got any comments on that. And then item A under new business would be the consideration on the resolution. So we just need a motion to approve the resolution. And it would be a motion to approve the resolution and then authorizing the execution of the documents. So the way it would need to be stated. Then we have first reading of ordinance 2025-13. I spoke with each of you on this as well. This was something that came up in a discussion earlier in the year. Under another idea that were discussing about potentially doing a curfew in the city. And when the police department was researching everything and preparing for it, they realized there was a section in our code under loitering that was determined to be unconstitutional. It wasn't a section they had been enforcing. There's another provision in the code that they actually use that is legal. But this one had never been removed. And we made the step to remove it earlier in the year, and we did a first reading but never did the second reading. So we're just bringing it back to do the second reading. This is just repealing that unconstitutional portion. Any questions on that? Chief's here if anybody's got any questions. Okay. This is the first reading.
So that's on our January.
It'll be on the January, yeah, whatever the January meeting is. Yep. Yep. Okay. Then we have, police department's asking to surplus 4 vehicles. So you see the list of those there. So we just need a motion to surplus those, and they'll be sold on the GovDeals website. Hopefully. And then just my nominations to reappoint Deborah Jones and Stephanie McDonald to the staff board for the next term. Or I think, were these replacing the 2 of you? No, these were reappointments.
Seth has
Okay.
been on it.
Yes, Stephanie
Okay.
and Deborah been on it.
Okay, so I think your replacements, they might be voting on,
Their
or
member voted.
will be coming up, oh, their member voted. So we won't see those. Okay, and then we'll move to council reports. So any questions on the regular meeting?
Do you have any other applications for people to be on the board, for the stat board?
We don't get those. They go through the stat board, they have a nominating committee.
Okay, and then they nominated these 2 to come back up.
There are several positions, but the applications were posted online, and there was a deadline that was posted for board applications.
They have a whole process, and they go through a nominating committee, and so they provide me with who their nominations are. and I usually follow with
Their recommendations.
All right, so we will move back to the work session agenda. Any correspondence? City attorney's report? Ongoing projects, Mr. Pepper.
So you all can refer to your city projects update form, run through things here. So Grove Tire has received all their construction permits. So they've had their fire marshal and their health county health department reviews and passed all of those. So now they're working on their business license and alcohol permit applications with the city there. So they're in that last, I would say the last few steps, the last mile. I mean, they're getting there. And then Parkside District and Dumpling Master works on going.
So that's the PD and DM?
Mm-hmm, yep. Then on Saturday, we had our Stand at the Grove event down for a few hours. Brian, Jan Harris, and Regina Hart were our staff there, and they said it was a big success. They had a lot of good turnout, more than last year, which is always what we're hoping for, that things grow. And so the Santa was very jolly, and the kids had a good time. And so we're happy about that, which is great. So we'll keep you all abreast of what we're working on for the next year as far as just events go. You know, as these restaurants come online, I will say we are talking with our commercial partners about doing some sort of grand opening for the Grove. Hopefully that's the first quarter of next year.
Crooked Can is filling customers mid-January for a grand opening for that.
For their stuff.
For the market, yeah.
Yeah, good. Very good. Then just the next one, you know, the sanitation, so the staff's preparing the ITB based on all the feedback that we got from everybody the last time we discussed it in November. And we're still on track to put that out on January 5th.
The ITB is invitation to bid.
Oh, yeah, you had me.
And then, so the next item, so mayor and council input on development zoning guidelines. So I will give a few minutes to, or ask Planning Director Jason Thompson to take a few minutes. We have what we think we're going to receive an application from a developer for a development within the town center area. We want to give you guys a heads up. There's not a lot of specifics we can discuss on it, but more than just let you know. So the process things, that it's coming. So when you get an email from John Dennis, I'm assuming sometime this week, you're not caught completely off guard with that. So just want you.
Yeah, basically, just kind of the process for the zoning, so you get used to it, is when we receive the application, John Dennis by policy has 3 days, or whoever the zoning administrator may be at a point in time, to notify the council that we received it. Because in the past, where people didn't have the right information, you guys should have the information first, because you're going to be the ones getting all the questions on the front end. But as you know, the Snellville Oak Shopping Center's been under planning for 10, 12 years now. We moved the dialysis center from inside the shopping center, had to build them a whole new building to get them out of there. All the leases are over, and now they're under contract with a property, not an owner, but a proposed owner. They don't close until the deal goes through, if it does through mayor and council. But this one is different. You're going to get introduced to a process that we don't see a lot. It's called a DRI. It's called a Development of Regional Impact. And there's certain thresholds that tip it off. A lot of times when you're related to, and this is like a mixed residential use, so a lot of times those parameters are typically set on unit counts. So if it reaches a certain unit count, and we've not seen the full application, but we anticipate that it's going to go through the DRI process, and that's important because first thing they do is they submit to us, and we expect that this week. Before we can do anything, because it passes that limit for regional impact, we kick it to ARC, which is the Atlanta Regional Commission. They're the regional planning commission and regulatory authority for our region and the state. And the process is open process to the public. Anyone wants to do it. Mainly what they do is they take and break the project down and review it based on several factors: transportation, school impact, environmental impact. And they do it at a regional level too. So the Georgia DOT will be involved, the Gwinnett DOT, Gwinnett Water and Sewer. It's basically like a round table of regional regulators. And they take, to even submit for the DRI, the applicant has to do enhanced traffic counts. They have to submit a lot more because of the potential regional impact. So once we receive that, we'll make sure it's complete, and then we kick it up to ARC and we can't do anything. Basically starts at 8, it can be as short as 8 weeks, it's usually 12 to 16, and the city, we stop. We can't do anything. Now, we do participate in the in the overview when they have, typically monthly meetings or meetings based on each section. It may be transportation, but typically they're down at ARC or I guess on Teams now, or however they do it. The last one we actually did was for the growth. So it's been 5 years, and before that I think we've only done once. It was the third one in 20 years that I've seen. The other one I believe was the medical.
Wasn't it the age in place
Yeah, East Side,
facility
right?
next to East Side?
Sheridan.
Sheridan.
It wasn't the Sheridan. It was the one that was going to be built
Oh,
where
and they canceled
Shadowbrook
it.
wound
Yeah,
up.
that's right. So we didn't even get that one through with the
Yeah.
two that most recently, and they've changed the metrics a little bit from when we last did it, but it's basically run and initiated by ARC. They bring everyone in, and then the end result of that process, of course the applicant is involved, is they will issue basically a findings report. And I'm going to try to find you one that they recently did for the county so you can get familiar with it. But it's a comprehensive overview of what they found through the data analysis, the culmination of the talking with all the different regulators and regulating authorities. And then they produce, based on all of that, a report, whether, basically pros and cons, would they recommend it, and then a lot of times, which is very beneficial to the city, is they'll give you comprehensive steps to achieve each goal. Like, if you're going to approve this traffic needs to be upgraded. If you're going to do this, you have to do this. And that's all based on state and regional planning. And that's just kind of like, I would say, a bare minimum. It doesn't stop the council or anyone else that's governing to restricting or conditioning or changing, but it basically gives us a base of the potential of what the development and how it can impact the city. And we need those tools, and it's nice because it's at a much higher level because it's a much larger development. So it's kind of the process. We anticipate them to submit an application that has the entire Snellville Oaks area, a lot of the parcels on Eastgate, right? Eastgate, some of those remaining parcels, most of those, except for the ones on the west side of the street, will be going. And they're going to submit, I believe it's going to be half multifamily lease, with the other half, which will be, and I'm trying not to get too specific until you see it, where it adjoins residential uses to on Eastwood as well as Old Hickory. Residential single family on the outside there for sale. So half for sale, half for lease, and then they're going to give us all of the architectural and all that stuff too, but that'll give you some time to get comfortable just kind of learning the project by the time it goes through the ARC process. And when those meetings come, we'll push them out. Anybody can come, I can report back, but we kind of go through the process together. And then once they're done and the process goes through, then we'll initiate planning commission process. So then we'll have to advertise, get it out, and then it'll come to you guys after the planning commission. So I would say 4 or 5 months probably down the road before we're towards the end of that process. And it'll be a good one too, because it kind of you get to see all the pieces of everything kind of lay out. And once we get it, we'll still post it to the website. Everything will still be visible. So we'll send you an email with a link. You can go through it. If you have any questions, you need any help, any just informational stuff, I'm here to answer them. We're pretty familiar with that property after having it. Walmart wasn't even in business, and I believe it was 20 years ago, it was already something else. So that's how long that sea of asphalt is over there. So just keep that in your mind. It's probably going to come into this week, the beginning of next.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, anytime.
So this process they use, is it one that they use in AI as far as like software to?
They may use some AI for, but this is more like, the process is like an individual planning review of kind of each piece of it. Like the Georgia Department of Transportation and Gwinnett will get down and they'll break down the traffic study, but they're not designing anything, so there's no really design option. They're just reviewing it. It's like a really comprehensive review from this high up instead of what we do, which is really low. So they'll do this is what you're going to affect, but it's all, what you'll realize over time is the engineers have a book they go by. The traffic guys have a book they go by. Some manual that you never want to read that has like every little tick that's been adopted by the state and sometimes pushed down from the feds, even all the way down to our code book. So all they really do is get all the professional reviewers, the best traffic guys, and they go over it and they just kind of take it piece by piece and then combine all that data into a little report. So there's not really any design. I mean, they could be using AI to clean up the text and stuff, but it's not going to be something where they're just punching something in and it comes out something else. So it'll be more so just really just a hard review.
So all of the information, including how many units
Everything's coming.
come.
When it comes through, there, I mean, it'll be no different than any other rezoning application that you guys have seen or been a part of in the audience or been through. It'll be to that level of detail, probably more, given what they're required to put in. So all of that will be available. We just can't opine with the staff opinion. We can't even really make comments officially outside of the DRI process, but we are allowed to steer and be involved in that process too as a major stakeholder. So as we're going through it, we can take some time, learn it, and then I'll make sure to communicate what's going on. You guys can probably be involved in a lot of those meetings too. It's a good time to kind of learn and then advocate too, because they listen a lot to the cities. They don't know our local like we know our local. We know where the pinch points are. We know where there could potentially be some issues. So they know the broad system, they know 78 and all that, but they don't know those little streets. So it's a collaborative process.
So it starts that once it comes in, then John Dennis gets it all posted to the website, and then we get an email that says, we just got this application
Yeah.
with the link to the website.
And we'll make sure as part of that notification process that we give you a little background too on the DRI process, give you a link to follow up kind of with the time, just general, and then once we get into it, it'll be communication all the time to let you know what's going on, when you want to become involved, or if you have any questions, or what might pop up.
And you said this ARC is open to the public? This ARC is open to the public?
Yeah, Atlantic Regional Commission is actually the planning commission, every little, this metro area, so it's the biggest one with the most people. So they have a big office downtown and a lot of planners, a lot of
They have a lot of data.
Yeah, they're a really
Gwinnett
big
Municipal
clearinghouse. Yeah.
Association has a member that's a liaison to that board.
Oh, good.
It's a really nice
Yeah.
organization.
It is. It's great people down there and a wealth of information.
The class I was in the liaison for the class I was in Savannah last year.
Okay. I'll
There's
look her
so
up.
much stuff in her brain.
Yeah,
It's
they are.
ridiculous. Yeah.
So did you also have a question?
Yes, I also have a question. Does that property include the building out front that has the Dunkin' Donuts and the fingers?
No,
or
not
that'll
at
stay?
That's the
regardless?
only, this is where I kind of see that. If the other part goes through, that's going to be right behind it. Just
That's,
because.
yeah.
But these guys apparently couldn't get, these folks wanted,
Right.
gold level pricing, so usually they just wait, build around you, and then you're like, oh, what can I do with this, so then it flips over time. But everything else besides the car wash catfish place, the dialysis, the craziest, the catfish car wash, the dialysis, and then that is that AutoZone?
Yeah,
It's one of each.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Pep Boys stays, but everything behind that, as far as the existing shopping center, and most of those now, WH, before he passed, made sure that if they bought one of those parcels, they were gonna buy them all. So he sold them pretty much everything he owned back there, including a couple of the pieces. Just put this in your brain and you'll need to see it, where we've planned for a long time in order to make that development work for the town center. To be a part of the town center, we have to connect it to the town center. Right now, it's not connected. Because part of the plan is, if you know, there's, is that Hugh Drive?
Hugh Drive.
Hugh Drive down by Ryan's, or Old Ryan's, whatever you want to call it, the old empty spot over by Planet Fitness in the front. There's a public right-of-way that goes pretty much all the way down to that biggest abandoned building, and the plan is to carry that through, connect through there with, extend the Greenway Trail to provide mostly pedestrian parking, but also vehicular access to a small degree to get people down there. It's like 0.6 miles, so it's right within the 3/4 mile mark, but the key, and it's always been part of that project, is to improve that and connect it, to make it vital to the area. Without it, you know, it's just really another development at that point. But that's part of the plan too. I expect us to see it at some point. It was critical for us when we've been talking about these guys particularly, but in the past 10 years trying to find something. But we'll have all those details as soon as we get them out to you guys. And I'm happy to sit down and look at some of that stuff with you too, because pretty complex once you get into all the different moving parts on there.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah. So we're moving down our list, package sales implementation. We're working to get a date for the hearing, and as part of that, there are some, I don't call it current attorney, what attorneys call it discovery for the hearing. Do some depositions. So there were some depositions last week. There'll be some more this week in preparation for the hearing. If there are questions about that from you all, please call Jay, and he'll give you all the details and what you need to know about that. Briscoe Park. So what we're working on now is the contractor is preparing to pour the east and west retaining walls there. And they're also preparing the slab for the offices and the restrooms down there. So
that'll be the upper
the
side.
office is kind of the upper side, and the restrooms on the lower side. And the retaining wall that's kind of around between the two buildings, the two sections of the buildings, the upper and the lower there. And then just by way of follow-up, this summer we had two unfortunate instances that happened the same weekend. You'll recall where there were firearms discharged. The council responded with several initiatives. One of them was cameras in the park. So as of you'll recall that when we signed that agreement with Flock to install cameras, a lot of the cameras they did not have in stock. So we knew that they were going to have to get them in stock and then install them several months later. So, and Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we had 21 total cameras that we were going to put in the park. 10 of them have been installed. So we've got 3 at the entrances, each of the entrances there. And then there have been 7 that have been put out in various locations at the park. So we've still got several more we've got to put up. And then we've also put up 7 what they call Ravens? They're the gunshot detection devices that are out there. So if there's a firearm discharged, it's picked up on these sensors and it notifies the police immediately to respond. So we're still working through that, but that's the update. So we've got about half of the cameras up so far, and then the Chief of 7 is those all the. Is there any more gun detection devices that we put up?
There will be more.
There will be more. Okay.
And the Ravens are separate from the Flock cameras, right?
Yes, it's owned by Flock, but it's
Different product.
It's
yes.
a different
It's not a
product.
camera.
It's not included in the 21, maybe I should say that.
Yeah, it's 21 cameras.
Correct. So the 7 Ravens are something different product. Correct.
All right, so moving on north in Wisteria, so the curb and gutter work on the project is nearly complete. There's just a handful of driveway aprons that they have left to do there. They're working on one on the exterior for the exterior one building there. They poured half today and they'll pour the another half later this week, and that will be done. There's still some remaining asphalt and sidewalk work that we'll need to have some warmer weather, to put in. Hopefully over this next 10 days, the forecast, we have highs in the high 50s and the low 60s. And so if the rain stays away, we might be able to get some of this asphalt work taken care of, which would be great there. Then the .gov crossover, so we're awaiting approval from federal government. It's a typo. Approval to go to the .gov website. We have to register with them. They approve us to do that, with that transition.
I have one request. Can you speak a little louder?
Sure.
I promise you I can't hear you.
Sure.
You don't have to repeat that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, going forward.
Okay.
Could you speak a little louder?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
And that's all we have for our report.
Okay, any questions? All right. And item B is discussion about smoking at the Grove. We all had some text going on last week about some complaint on smoking that's happening at the Grove. Matt's been doing a little digging in, and I asked for the chief to be ready to talk about that too. And just, Matt, you want to start with what the policy is on smoking on public?
Yes, I think, and Jason, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a code section that prohibits smoking on public property, which we consider to grow public property. I think there is a provision in there that does allow us to designate an area that could be used for smoking. As far as I know, we have not done that, but we can. If we need to.
Like either at Briscoe Park or Oak Road Park or in the
any
Grove or any on the
public
town
property.
green, we haven't done any.
City Hall, any of the stuff that we have. Yep, we can do that. We have not done that yet. As far as the staff level goes, we have kind of had internal discussions, aside from this conversation, on how would we try to manage some of that. If we had an event, with a lot of kids around or something, we may not want that smell around. What could we do? What could we offer? I think, the best solution would be to try to designate a smoking area and ask people to please just go smoke if they are going to smoke in that portion of the Grove. But that's about as far as we've gotten. We haven't designated any area. We haven't talked about it with any of you or the DDA. It's just as we were discussing how we enforce some of these things that are in our code now, how do we do that effectively? That was the conversation we had. It's very cursory from our level. I know that from the Tomlins perspective, they don't allow smoking in the apartments. They have a mechanism to enforce that. It hasn't come, as far as I know, to them asking anyone to leave or cancel any leases, but they do have a formal process that they regulate that with. Obviously, inside buildings, the other two are publicly owned. We don't allow smoking in libraries and in other areas like that. As far as the enforcement perspective goes, that's, Chief can weigh in on.
Yeah, we would certainly respond to anybody that had any complaints, but we haven't. It's been years and years since we've gotten a complaint of anyone smoking outside, because it's also unlawful to smoke outside of any business in the city. So if you're near the front doors, you can't smoke. And we haven't gotten that kind of call for as long as I can remember.
We're talking about marijuana though, specifically.
Well, but we have a no smoking policy regardless of what they're smoking.
I mean, correct. And marijuana is not legal here anywhere, but it's definitely been an issue that's been brought up with citizens who reside in the Tomlin, citizens who are, enjoying the wonderful and new developments that we have. And, it's quite quite, I mean, I'm not a smoker, I don't smoke squares, I don't do any of that, I don't want any marijuana or any of that. But it's very difficult for our family members to have a good time, and you come outside and that's all you smell is marijuana. So the issue is marijuana. How do you handle that? And then marijuana, you know, they can smoke it in their apartment, in their house, in their car. Not they can, but people are. And that's one of the biggest concerns. So,
Can I comment?
yeah, please chime in.
So there's been a steady increase that really accelerated probably in the last year and a half. Ever since 2019, when Governor Kent passed the hemp law, that basically legalized hemp farming. Well, hemp being processed and sold all around the state smells like marijuana. It also tests the exact same way as marijuana. So you look at it under a microscope, it looks exactly like marijuana. Although it's legal, marijuana is not legal. So the state will not test anything that sends to the crime lab unless it's over an ounce, so a felony amount of marijuana. Back in 2019, when this happened, the former DA, or it might have been 2018, the former district attorney, Katie Porter, told all agencies in Gwinnett County, do not charge possession of marijuana less than an ounce because you can't test for it. So at that point, for the most part, all enforcement went away. Now, we still, with the blessing of our prosecutor and our judge, we still charge someone with possession of marijuana less than an ounce by writing them a ticket if they confess that what they have is marijuana. But if they don't confess to it, we have to assume that it's hemp because it looks the exact same, it smells the exact same. So I imagine the vast majority of things that people are smelling is marijuana, basically because it's been legalized all throughout the state, mainly in the metro area, because there's no enforcement. So we might be the only people charging in Gwinnett County, like even writing a ticket for it, which would be my guess is why there's been a sharp increase, because people have gotten comfortable smoking it in public.
And I've been in states where it is legal and I don't even smell it in the streets. You know, I don't. You know, public transportation, anything, you just don't smell it. But when I come home, I smell it. And it's unfortunate. So maybe the signs or something, if anybody have any suggestions how we can curb that.
Well, I'm gonna just kind of, a lot of this is not really enforceable. Like, I live there, and it is an issue. However, how much of it can be enforced?
Right.
And that's just the reality of it. If you want to, you know, how much of this, because, you know, looking at the current policy of smoking, I mean, it pretty much covers all bases. It covers weed, vapes, everything that you can possibly smoke is in this. But how much of it is enforceable? And then the other side is how many, I don't see many no smoking signs, and maybe that could be a deterrent. But yes, I have to kind of say there have been reports of the smoking, but how much of it is actually enforceable? And then what, to what extent? Because when we look on here, it says like $50 fines.
Yeah, if we write somebody a ticket for possession of marijuana, so if they're smoking marijuana, we have anything to charge them with, it's much more than $50 fine. But that would be decided by the judge as far as what the fine would be. And typically the person gets put on probation and that kind of thing, unless the case gets put down. But as far as what is enforceable, the primary thing is we need to be able to identify who's doing it, because I drove here from Tequila at night and I smelled marijuana 4 times on the way here, and only 1 time was in Snellville. And I had no idea what car it was coming from.
Right.
It could have been a car that passed me, it could have been a car that was in front of me. Back in the day, it was so rare that we would be able to see a puff of smoke coming out of somebody's car and we'd know that's the car. But now it's become so normal. I mean, it really has. It's become so normal, it's hard to pinpoint. But we would need the citizens that if they see somebody smoking marijuana to call us and say, there's a guy in a blue jacket out in the Grove that's smoking marijuana. We used to have a guy that would come sit out in front of City Hall smoke marijuana. People would call in on him, we'd go out and check on him and write him a ticket for his marijuana. But he ended up going away because he didn't want to get a ticket. So I think if most people knew that there was still enforcement, so feel free to share that information, that we are still enforcing it. We know that everybody that we stopped that's smoking marijuana, they know that there's enforcement because we're searching their car, we're finding other drugs, guns, stuff like that. So there is still enforcement. We just have to have the ability to identify who these people are.
And they have to be actively smoking when they get there.
We're in possession of it.
Information.
But if they tell you, if somebody calls and you go and make contact and they tell you that it's hemp, then that's not illegal. Or can we still get them under our public no smoking?
If we saw them smoking. So if we did not see them smoking, then it would be a misdemeanor that didn't occur in our presence, so we would take that charge.
Okay.
So for me, I would probably look more at what are our tools to have the Grove actually enforce their no smoking policy. Because like you said, to enforce something like that in a public space and wide open would be difficult. I can tell you, when me and my daughters went there a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't that somebody was smoking. It's as soon as you walk into the main part of the Grove, it smelled like Washington State. Just be honest, it smelled like Washington State.
And we have, there is a courtesy officer, but again, he is not like full-time walking around monitoring the property. If we do call, the lag time is when someone actually coming and catching whoever, or even just asking them to leave. I'm not gonna walk, like there's a bunch of teenagers that hang out, and I mean, we as residents, and I speak as a resident from there, that we have to, when we're walking around, this is something that has now just become normal. So that was the reason why I asked, is it enforceable? Because the violations that are written within this ordinance say it's $50, $100, and $250 for a violation against the city. So how much of that, if they're charged, it's a greater penalty, but how much of that is actually enforceable?
Yeah, see, and that would go, we'd have to talk with Judge Taylor to see what they do when they actually get to court. Because for something like that, especially if it's a first offense, more than likely it just gets pled down and
out
their
the
wrist
door.
gets slapped
So,
and they're gone.
like, I'm concerning with the restaurants opening up, and we having people coming who are not from Snellville, and they're coming to these restaurants and visiting our city, and this is when they get out of their cars.
First impressions.
It's the first thing we think. I mean, let's think about this on a bigger scale. Like, I'm just a resident and I'm here, but I'm telling you that yes, it is, it's like the normal now. And that's not what we want to kind of portray as being the downtown
Not
center.
our image.
So for me, it's again going back to what partnership, what tools can we use? Because we saying the main issue is coming from the Grove. It's not because no one's sitting in the public square lighting up a doobie. It's coming from that main building.
And it's
So-
not it's some residents, but it's really not coming from the residents. It's people.
Well, wait, when you're saying the Grove, I picture the park space out front,
Yeah, so let me switch that up. The Tomlin.
the Tomlin.
So most of the smell is going to come from the Tomlin. It's not most people sitting on the Grove smoking. When I went in, it wasn't because of what was going on in the Grove. It's when I went in the building. So even as a resident, if I'm coming the first time lease and I walk in the building, you know, I'm not for or against it. I can just be honest with you. I don't really care. But we're talking about when you're in that public space, the library, parking garage. If I'm not mistaken, that belongs to the city.
The city.
Okay,
yes.
so what I'm saying is, if there's a policy, it's more like going to be a policy between us and the town that's saying like, hey, we know when you smoke in your residence, guess what? You charge those residents for that money.
No,
You charge it for that.
they get thrown out.
What I'm saying is like they charge people, like you smoking in your room, you get fined, and your security deposit come from that. We don't see any of that. All of that goes to the Tomlin. They paint their walls, they do whatever.
Right.
So there's a forcible or fee that you can do. We'll be honest, when you start feeing people, hey, every time we smoke, you might not stop, but by the time I finish charging you $350, each $50 I catch you, you're gonna at least stop smoking in the Tomlin. You'll at least be willing to go in your car and get caught by one of our 5 officers here, right in your car trying to get away with doing it before you do it in the Tomlin.
The only pushback I'll give with that is that are we expecting the Tomlin staff to police that?
The Tomlin staff would know when they walk past people, apartments, what smell like marijuana smoke. When they close you out at the end of your lease is up, they tell you, there's a line on there for smoking. How do they know that you were smoking in your apartment and charge you for it?
Well, their policy, their current policy is that if they catch you smoking on the balcony, in the apartment, on the property at all, down in the courtyard, their policy is to give you one warning. And if they catch you again, then they can terminate the lease immediately.
So they do have something. in
They
place.
have a
Yeah,
policy in
that's
place.
good. But we also have a courtesy officer too. Still, there is a policy, there is an officer, so.
It's a
I mean, that's
decision
good.
corporate's making basically.
Yeah.
You know, because they're
Just turn
they're
it on.
looking towards their lease payments, then kicking folks out. I mean, it's all.
Yeah, they're not gonna swatch
And then
out
when you walk down the hall, you
2,300.
Right,
can't
and
figure
we
out where it's
don't-
coming from.
We don't have, to my knowledge, we don't have the ability to go in and make the Tomlin change their policy, enforce different policies. You know, it's private property, it's privately owned building. So I don't know that we've got the ability to step in there and tell them, you know, this is what your policy's gotta be. Now, we can have conversations with them, obviously, and we're all working towards the same thing. So we can try to influence that. But there's not much we can do within their walls, as far as that go, other than just making sure that we're all clear that what we're trying to eliminate or tamp down, you know, sounds like they're trying to eliminate it as well. And just keep working together to see if we can't strengthen some policies and actions.
So it's an over.
How
The-
much of it is?
The public space is really your
The
best
public
bet to
space,
kind
if
of,
we-
to
if we
enforce
enforce
just
it
no
outside.
smoking. Smoking period would slow it, just that enforcement action, I think, even if kids are hitting dates and stuff, or whatever it is. Say no potentially that even smoking, I mean, that kind of takes care of the other stuff too, you know, but that's probably your best bet. I mean, I've seen it in the past 5 years. I mean, it's like Chief said, like you said, it's everywhere, in almost every public space, you know, it's just, and you're probably gonna get a lot further just kind of, just the smoking part, because there's danger to that too. It's probably easier to enforce than Chief saying, well, you got weed or is that hemp, you know, I mean, it's,
Tony told me not to call the mayor, but I was walking down the street in Martinsville Saturday afternoon and I smelled it.
it's just a different
I was gonna call the mayor and let him know.
ages, man,
So
society.
should we put signs
That's
out
what I'm
just to
thinking,
say,
signage.
just go ahead and just put the signs out like you said, have the presence, please do not smoke here, whatever sign you can say.
Vape,
This is
weed,
no,
blah,
yeah, just got
anything.
no smoking, period. We already have an ordinance that's very clear and detailed. Let's just put the signs out, have our officers, you see something, say something, so we can reduce that because we do not want to be a city known for reefer as soon as you.
Yeah, I mean, we
That's just the
can
bottom
look at doing that certainly. I mean, that seems like the easiest thing.
line. Yeah,
It's just that, so what I worry about is it'll be no smoking. We've already had to put no skateboarding. You know, we're gonna wind up with a whole downtown area full of
No.
no's and welcome to the Grove. But I hear you and maybe there's a way we can,
do it tastefully.
or maybe we do like, this is a smoke-free community.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's it
I
right
like
there,
that.
boom. Because that's
You know,
exactly what we
something
want.
like
Because
that.
we're family oriented. We want our kids to play. Our elders and no one wants secondhand smoke. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, do it.
So
in
maybe
your own space.
we could couch it like that to
Yeah,
where,
it sounds
I got an
weird.
idea. Let's make it a smoke-free community sign. I'm just playing.
Smoke-free stuff.
So we are working on, staff is working on,
we need to wrap up too, we're at 7:25. Go ahead.
I got 5 minutes?
Yeah. You have 2 minutes, that gives you 3 minutes to get them done.
So staff is working on, a sign where it will have several rules, not trying to be too heavy-handed, but at the same time for enforceability. no smoking is one of those, or we can word a different way, skateboarding, what was some other stuff, I don't remember.
Smoke-free community?
No, that, but we had several other things. And
Oh.
we're trying to pare down to one that felt like you weren't being scolded by the time walking in, but at the same time addressed some of these things, and no smoking is on there. So we've talked about, Brian, Mercy have done kind of a walk around the grove on where that signage could go. So that is part of our conversation.
So maybe we can move to that. But I know I've gone into other communities and you're like driving in and they have this sign up that says, don't do this, know that. Welcome to our town, you know, and it's like, well, I'm not feeling very well, you know, it's just like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, oh, welcome.
Enjoy your time.
Yeah. So, okay. All right, with that, that's the end of our work session, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Norman, Gary, second. All in favor?
What?
We are done at 7:27.